So I apparently got my timing off in the earlier parts of this video. It's kind of late at night, but this is now the third layer I'm pouring, which are the little rocks, which I'll put a picture of in the corner here, right there. And I am going to go ahead and just mix up a small batch. And this is activated charcoal from Nurture Soap. This is pewter gray from Brambleberry. And this is titanium dioxide, also from Brambleberry. And I'm just going to do a simple in the pot swirl and add a little bit of soap confetti to give the rocks more of a natural texture. And then I will pour it in on the side of the soap so it will kind of hurry up in the one corner, which is where I want it to be. Okay, so that's just a simple in the pot swirl. And now I'm just going to kind of plop that into the mold on an angle so the rocks stay on the one side. And I'm just kind of plopping it in. I'm not being super careful, just so it looks rocky in appearance and not all the same. Now that that's done, I've got grass reflection that I want you to be able to see in the soap. So I'm trying to decide how to make that happen the best. And I'm not super successful in the end result here, but I tried. In the future, I think I would try something different for this particular effect, but we'll see. So now I'm going to go ahead and mix the darker grass layer, which I'll put a picture of in the corner, that I wanted to have the reflection of, because the grass has two colors. It has the lighter grass, it's more in the sunlight, and then the darker grass, it's more in the foreground. So this is my darker grass color that's going to go first, and just get that in because I want that all in those little bits, and then a thin layer over the rocks because that layer isn't super heavy over the rocks. I'll use the rest of that in something else. And now we're going to use the lighter green layer, which composes the body of the grass in the picture. I wanted this to look more grass-like, so I do a little bit of a pointy layer here. It's moderately successful in the final soap. Now I'm going to do a little bit of green in there as well, just to give it a little bit of variation. And that way the soap looks more realistic and closer to nature versus just a thin layer of soap. So I'm going to scrape all this in, get it all cleaned up, kind of wedge it down a little bit, and I'll get ready for the next layer. I'm doing all of these in very small layers because I wanted them to set up as I'm not using a scraper. I'm doing this all basically by pour and tools alone. So now our next layer, again, I'll put it up in the corner for you to see. I'm mixing up, again, small, adding a little bit of fragrance oil, and then stick blending it till it gets to a decent consistency. It's still pretty light trace, but it's not super thick. So this is the kind of lightish purple background that you see. It's a thin line on the horizon. So I'm starting that one now, and I'll pour that one in, and then I will do the darker kind of greeny color that comprises the trees in the background next. Okay, that's all in. Now I'm going to do the darker green wedge of trees, which is on the opposite side, so I've turned my mold around. I'm reusing the cup of the darker green that I used before, even though this isn't the same dark green, just because I didn't want to waste anything if I could possibly avoid it. So I've got a really nice dark green. This is Savage Garden with activated charcoal from Nurture Soap. And I'm just going to pour it on the edge so it just takes up part of the picture there. And I'm going to pat this down and let it sit until it sets up, and then I'll come back and carve the trees. So I've carved the trees, and I'm getting ready to pour the next layer. So I'm just cleaning up my edges here so it's ready. I don't want it to be messy. So now I'm going to pour the blue part of the sky, and I'll point to that here in the corner. I probably should have done this differently, but this is how I thought to do it because it was late at night when I was doing this and I wasn't thinking. I think I might do it a different way, but all I end up doing is kind of pouring this down the side of the mold, and then waiting for it to set up a little bit, and then using my spatula to kind of scrape out the bit I wanted to look. So I know it looks scary what I'm about to do, but it does work. It stays in there for the most part. Maybe don't do this at home. Also notice that I'm holding my custom craft angler, Cheshire Cat angler. I don't have the pins in it right now. Mine is kind of sticky. I know not all of them are, and I can do that with it. And then I just put a stick in to hold it in place when I want it to be in a certain place. But this way I can kind of adjust it on the fly versus using the pins, because I don't like the pins. You can see me kind of playing with it here till I get where I want it. And then again, I'm just putting the soap in on the side so I can wait for it to set up and I can kind of scrape it. I'm sorry that's not very interesting to look at. There wasn't a way for me to easily show this part of it. Basically, I'm just kind of putting it on the side of the soap and angling it a little bit so I can carve out the middle part. So I've carved out where the lightning's going to go sideways. And I am now going to get the next layer ready, which I'll again point to in the picture in the top of the screen. Again, looking at this now, I probably should have tried to cut that little weird blue layer thing right there. I'll point to it real quick. But in the meantime, I want to get this cloud part done because a cloud matters. So we're going to get our lightning bolt in just a second here. But first, we're going to get the cloud because it's a cloudy gray coming in on the side. So now we've got most of that cloud in there, and I'm trying to work it into the edges so it really gets to the bottom. Again, I'm using a stick to hold that up instead of the pins from the Custom Craft Tools angler, which I love. It's probably my favorite soap tool. I'm not sure how I lived without this thing before. All right, so now the cloud's in there and we're ready to put the lightning in. So I've just made this out of some soap dough, and I'm trying to fit it in. The lightning, it was really, 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 really floppy. And so I thought it would bend more than it did, and it was a little taller than I anticipated. So I end up kind of cutting this. You can see it here with my palette knife. So it's more proportionate to the actual picture. I wish I had made the bottom a little bit more folded over like the picture. If I try this again, I think I'll probably not do it late at night, so I'm not as tired trying to make it. I was also worried about all the little holes, so I filled it in with some white to help glue it down and help keep any holes from happening. A little bit on the bottom kind of came loose, so I'm just scraping it back up where it belongs. So here I am getting ready for the next little bit, which is the lighter purple. And now I'm just blending that in. Here's the darker purple. And all I'm going to do is put this down because, again, I'll point to the picture. There's a layered picture. There's a layered purple, it's like a darker purple on the horizon. And then it's got like a little fluffy lilac-y cloud. And then it's darker purple again, and then it goes into our sunset color. So this is the first part of that horizon above the tree line. And here's our little cloud going in. Which I didn't quite have enough. Math is not my strong suit. So I end up fiddling with it, and then I had a little bit of extra from the white that I'd poured earlier. So I popped that into the purple and mixed it around, and then I used that to fill in the rest of this here. So that's why that cloud looks a little weird in some of the bars, because I had to kind of make it up as I was going along. All right, so now we've got the darker purple, the kind of light cloud sandwiched in the middle. Now we're going to do the darker purple ahead above it again for that base part of the storm cloud. And again, I'll point to the picture at the top of the screen what layer we're doing right now. And this part goes pretty decently, but I realized that I was going to want to make the rest of the sunset kind of all go together. So I left this for a second and I grabbed my other colorant as well as the bigger batch of soap to mix everything together. So one moment, please. Let me get that darker color in there. That's where I want it. Perfect. Nice and dark. And then let me go grab the rest of the colorants so this all works together. So this is the bigger batch, actually the master batch of oils and lye that I've been siphoning off throughout this batch. The previous batches were all super, super small, by the way. Most were 4.1 ounces of oil to 1.6 ounces of lye, so super micro batches. So now that that's all mixed up, I got to work a little quickly because my recipe tends to set up a little bit for this particular type. So these are all my pretty colorants that I had to the side for the sunset parts itself. So I'm getting them all mixed up, and we'll get all the colors in. And then I wanted to kind of try to mimic that really pretty watercolor effect this guy was doing. So I'm trying to do a little bit of a one pot wonder to make that happen. All of these colorants are from Nurture Soap, and I will link in the description what they all were. But they're all Nurture Soap colorants. Most of them use the Epic Mica collection. If you have not used those yet, I strongly suggest it. They are some of the most beautiful colorants I've ever seen in soap. So, okay, first it's a dark purple, so it's encapsulating that cloud. And now we are going to kind of make little baby one pot wonders with these cups, which I don't think you can see me do because I'm off screen. So we got the light purple layered in. Now I'm making, the one pot wonder. Sorry, you can't see me doing this. Again, it was probably around like 12:30, 1 o'clock in the morning when I was finally finishing this. So you can see my little half moons there, but you can't see the finished product. So now I've got that where I want it, and it's pretty much straight up and down at this point. So I'm just layering in the sunset here. And then I'm going to do the next layer of color. So it's kind of oranges and pinks at the top of this particular picture. And then I wanted that bright pink to be on the side. Oh, tucking in our next bit of lightning here, sorry. And I'm trying to fill in the pieces. I didn't want it to have any pieces there with my little bit of extra soap, but it was a little messy and sticky. So that's the lightning going across the top of the sky. So again, back to one pot wonder, and I wanted that pink to be on the one side here, so I made sure to have it there. So tapped it all in, and now I'm just going to kind of squish it all back into the mold since I got a little extra, and clean up the sides and get everything ready for the actual top to happen. This is so satisfying for me to watch. I hate it when I make it super messy, so it's nice when I can actually clean it up. So now I'm just going to kind of layer in and make the top of the soap. So it's just, simply laying down the colors as we go along. It's not anything exciting or different. I love these colors. I love the brightness of them. This is a classic Florida sunset. It really is this bright. It really is that pretty all the time down here, which I guess is our reward for living in Florida where there's hurricanes, alligators, and mosquitoes. So now that all that's in the mold, I'm now going to do the quick little swirl. I've been doing this little swirl for a while. This is something that I started to do with my Maleficent soaps because I wanted it to look like horns or fire, and I just really like it. It's not anything fancy or special or particularly unique to me. I haven't really seen anyone else doing it, but I just really like it. I think it looks cool. So I just squiggle them one way, and then I turn around and I squiggle them the other way. Not a real complicated design, but I just think it gives an interesting look and kind of feels like the sun and fun and patterny to me. So again, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this and you enjoyed the colorants that I use, I put a link to them in my description. I am an affiliate with Nurture Soap, so if you want to thank me for telling you what I use to get these colors, if you click my link and buy through the link, it doesn't cost you any more, but it actually gives me a little bit of a kickback, I guess is the term to use. And it's a nice way to say thank you to the artist for telling you what I did. So now I'm going to go ahead and just cleaning up the edges. Sorry, this is off screen. And then I'm going to spray it with alcohol. And that should be right about here. There we are. Now you can see it. Ta-da! All right, so if I did this right, we are about to see a little bit of the reflection of the sky, this blue here, this orangey sky here and here, rocks, dark grass, green grass, little purple line of trees, dark trees, lightning bolt, purpley sunsetty colored clouds, other clouds, more lightning. So let's cross our fingers. You guys see that okay? Yeah, you can. Okay, good. I'll leave the sound on for now. I'll probably turn some of it off later, but let's get the first look. Not bad. A little childlike, but not terrible. I'm a little worried about the holes in the lightning. Again, not terrible, but not quite as sophisticated as I hope. Still more childlike, but I mean that tends to be my designs anyway. So bright color. I like that one, except for the little hole there. All right,